Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Friendship Pearson, and welcome again to my channel. It is Sunday. Happy Sunday, September 29th, 2024, 10:09 in the a.m., 10:09. And my birthday is coming up on October 9th. So great. Happy birthday. My birthday is coming up October 9th. But today is Sunday, and let's say it together. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. People, you are looking at one of the sisters of Hamas hostage. She speaks out. She speaks out. She was on the show Rising, The Hill. A friend of mine sent this to me, and it fits just right with what I want to present to you, which is this global governance. And one way I do believe they're going to bring in the one world system is they are going to have world, W-A-R, world, W-A-R, or something close to it. I want you to listen to her speak, because I do believe it speaks to our future. I do believe that things season and cycle, and in this generation, I am more than convinced that it's not happening naturally, it's manipulated. It's like we did it once, we'll have a space of time, and then we'll repeat it. So it appears the United Nations has taken a vote concerning the destiny of the United States of America. The United Nations adopts, as they say, groundbreaking pact for the future to transform global governance. And just what is global governance? In a perfect world where free speech wouldn't be regulated, I could spell out from A to Z just what I think after 45 years of research, what it is and what it isn't. Here I want to present a collection of articles I wrote from the late 1970s and 1980s on this subject. I believe the framework was set this past week with the United Nations. And like I said in my live video yesterday, the Pope is out on a world tour preaching the one world religion. This, I am predicting, with this framework, will lead to the Antichrist 666 kingdom. These are the papers I will be reading from. Jesse Jackson defends Andrew Young, August 31st, 1979. Next, we have the New World Order, October 19th, 1979. Next, we have October 26th, 1979, New World Order. And lastly, November 16th, 1979. I will have a part 2 tomorrow. It's good to look backwards to see so we can go forward. This will be my perspective, of course, because this is what I experienced as a journalist. When I first heard about the New World Order, nobody wanted to talk about it. And I do mean nobody. I had to go to Indiana and speak to different ministers and people that I came in contact with over time. And I had enough under my belt by 1980 to know exactly what was going on. Let's look at some of the players in my past, okay? Menachem Begin, who was the leader of Israel, negotiating a peace. Negotiating a peace back in the day. So again, Menachem Begin, who was the leader of Israel at the time, negotiating peace. Anwar Sadat of Egypt negotiating a peace. The Trilateral Commission. Trilateral Commission is a non-governmental organization that aims to promote cooperation between Japan, Western Europe, and North America, founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller. He's the one that I mentioned in articles back in the day, who I do believe put Jimmy Carter in the White House, President Jimmy Carter. Council on Foreign Relations is an American think tank specializing in U.S. foreign policy and international relations, founded in 1921. These are the groups which aren't talked about a lot, but these are the groups, in part, who are running the world international as well, definitely international. The PLO, Yasser Arafat. The PLO, Hamas, to me, is the modern day PLO. I guess that's the best way to put it. Hamas is the modern day PLO. Then we have President Clinton with Yasser Arafat, Anwar Sadat with Jimmy Carter, and we have Jimmy Carter in the middle, president, with Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin, trying to get that peace. And they did sign peace accords back in the day. They did sign them. It didn't last. And we're repeating history again, people. There it is there. Jimmy Carter, I think he's 100 years old by now, right? And we have Andrew Young, who was the first Black United Nations ambassador. I met him back in the day, interviewed him at Operation Push. I'll put all this in a connection for you. This is my late godmother, Reverend William Tapley Barrow. I love her with all my heart. She died at 90. She was special assistant. I might as well call her the vice president of Operation Push back in the day. I worked under her. My mom was a part of Operation Push with Reverend Jesse Jackson, and they created a position for me back in the day while I was youth minister. On Saturday, I would speak there. So this is my heart, Reverend Taplin Barrow. Yeah, that's my heart. She worked under Reverend Jesse Jackson. And it was called Operation Push back in the day. I was there every Saturday, and I worked under Reverend Jesse Jackson on Saturday, and I spoke to the youth. Okay, so those are the players. Let me show you some videos. Redacted, I showed this before. This gentleman is a correspondent. He's speaking on this one world system that United Nations allegedly is bringing in. Listen. This correspondence, listen in relation to this UN meeting they just had about taking our sovereignty. Forget about the Constitution, forget about the Bill of Rights. It's all about what the UN has to say in times of crisis or whatever in the future.
Yeah, thank you for that, Clayton. So the reason Americans and really people all over the world need to know about this is because in minor resistance way, all of the major nations you would expect are on board. The Pact for the Future is calling for a few main things. The first part is to include an emergency platform, and this emergency platform would allow UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to declare an emergency at any point. It's very similar to what we saw in the pandemic treaty, that people were resistant, but unfortunately there's less awareness about this. What the language says specifically that if there are, quote, global shocks which shock multiple regions of the world, then they could invoke this emergency platform, which would give the UN more powers to act. Now, what exactly would come from that, we don't know, because unfortunately, we have seen 3 drafts that have been released previously, the most recent one on August 27th.
So it's in secret, and they're doing it gradual. Like I said, You probably got about a third of the YouTubers talking about this P. Diddy thing and everything else going on, and the young people and people who want to keep up all this gossip, that's what's flooding it. So yes, that's the strategy, keep us ignorant. Now here we go with Glenn Beck. Justin Haskins is going to be speaking. He's also a correspondent. He covered the United Nations as well. If I'm not mistaken, he was there, or he definitely checked it out in depth. Listen to his take on the so-called vote of us going into the one world system, world governance.
Plans for an emergency platform. The final pass language says, this is the actual language, they want the Secretary General to consider approaches to strengthen the United Nations system response to complex global shocks within existing authorities, and ... It goes on and on and on. But in other words, we want you to re-propose all this stuff in the future.
Okay.
So it did not actually come into international law under this agreement.
All right, so now wait, hang on just a second. One other thing. When we say it passed, there was no actual vote, right? It was, you could vote against it, which nobody did. Isn't that right?
They do this a lot. They do this a lot at the United Nations, where they pass things by consensus, is what it's called, and it essentially is a way for them to pass things without having to formally vote for it. But it in essence passed. Yes.
That is crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So now the Declaration on Future Generations.
Now we're in, people, and they want to tighten this up in case there's a global shock. Do you understand? In case there is a global shock. And what I am thinking is, the powers, like they have always done, they have put us in precarious situations so they can justify the next move. And I want you to listen to this, because I believe this is possible for a shock. Like I said, sister of Hamas hostage speaks out, and she brings up 911. Listen carefully.
Please help me spread her story. Help me make people understand what she's going through as a woman in 2024. We are not 200 years ago. This is not okay that we have terror organizations that's controlling the free world, and people in the West letting it happen and stay on the streets, killing the hostages now, or Israelis must die. What did I do wrong? What did my sister did wrong? Nothing. Nothing. We did nothing wrong.
Well,
this was happening inside our own country. And if the world won't help us, we will see 9/11 the second time in the U.S. as well. But we can.
Did you hear that? If the U.S. doesn't help her, doesn't help their cause, we will see the 911 again. It's deep, y'all. Check it out.
This is what the Egyptian government said. This is what the Qatari said just today. And this is what my government said. Hamas also said that they're waiting, they need to read the agreement and to decide whatever they want. I don't know, but what I'm getting is from the media, and I'm sure that you're getting it from the media itself, yourself, because you're not in the negotiation team. So I'm here to talk about my sister. Please help me spread her story. Help me make people understand what she's going through as a woman in 2024. We are not 200 years ago. This is not okay that we have terror organizations that's controlling the free world, and people in the West letting it happen and stay on the streets, killing the hostages now, or Israelis must die. What did I do wrong? What did my sister did wrong? United States, in Michigan, rallies that's calling death to America, not condemning terror organizations in Israel or any other place, in fact, is reflecting to your country as well.
I'm just going to push back against the implication, Matt, in Michigan, which has the largest.
So yeah, you heard it the first time. if we don't, if this continues, she's predicting 9/11. That's deep. That's all I can tell you.
It is not okay that we have terror organizations that controlling the free world and people in the West letting it happen and stay on the streets, killing the hostages now, or Israelis must die. What did I do wrong? What did my sister did wrong? Nothing. Nothing. We did nothing wrong.
Well,
This was happening inside our own country. And if the world won't help us, we will see 9/11 the second time in the U.S.
Did you hear that? I've yet to decode that 242. I'm sure it means something. I haven't figured it out yet. But I do believe this, people, it's a bad time. Now, let's go to these here. I used to get press passes to interview people, meet certain people, and be at Operation Push, which is now called Rainbow Push on the south side of Chicago. And again, my godmother, Reverend Chaplain Barrow, or my mom made it possible for me to meet certain people. Andrew Young, who I showed you earlier, he was the ambassador under Jimmy Carter. First black ambassador. He was overseas, allegedly negotiating a peace talk between those two men, Yasser Arafat and Menachem Begin. Jimmy Carter said he didn't know anything about it. Once the information was out in public, this is when Andrew Young left the Middle East and came straight to Operation Push, and he met with Reverend Jesse Jackson. In meeting with Reverend Jesse Jackson, that's how I was able to then meet, through my godmom, Andrew Young. And I'm going to read to you what's going on. I'm just going to hold this and read so you can get some history. The Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, National